I may disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
President-elect Trump has nominated former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard to be the next Director of National Intelligence.
Donald Trump saying, I am pleased to announce that former Congresswoman Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard will serve as the Director of National Intelligence.
We had a great conversation and talked a little bit about the work that needs to be done.
This morning, senators on both sides of the aisle suggesting at least 2 of President-elect Trump's cabinet nominees face an uphill battle to be confirmed. That includes Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence.
And I was grateful and honored to accept President Trump's offer to serve our country and support his objective to defend the safety, security, and freedom of the American people as the Director of National Intelligence.
Senator Tammy Duckworth calls Gabbard compromised, citing Gabbard's 2017 trip to Syria.
I mean, Russian-controlled media called her a Russian asset. So I do think that we have a real deep concern whether or not she's a compromised person.
In 2017, Tulsi Gabbard, then a U.S. representative from Hawaii, took an unannounced trip to Syria. During this visit, she met with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, a move that drew widespread criticism from both Democrats and Republicans.
They need more than one operation, more than one procedure.
Very hard. The rest of your children are okay?
Critics argued that meeting with Assad, who was accused of committing war crimes, was inappropriate and could undermine U.S. foreign policy.
So you were in Syria for 4 days. Did you meet with President Bashar al-Assad?
I did. You know, my reason for going to visit Syria was really because of the suffering of the Syrian people that has been weighing heavily on my heart. I wanted to see if there was, in some small way, a way that I could express the love and the aloha and the care that the American people have.
Some senators and political figures labeled her actions as potentially compromising, implying that her meeting with Assad and critical stance on U.S. interventionism might have aligned her too closely with foreign interests.
They've actually said that you are an Assad supporter. I know this is not correct.
Yeah. It's the usual tactic of trying to smear or vilify me and my campaign and what I'm advocating for. Because they don't want to engage on the actual issue itself.
Gabbard defended her trip by stating that her intent was to seek peace and better understand the situation on the ground in Syria. She also highlighted her opposition to what she described as U.S.-backed regime change wars.
Did you have any compunctions about meeting with somebody like that, giving him any sort of enhanced credibility because a member of the United States Congress would meet with someone like that?
Whatever you think about President Assad, the fact is that he is the president of Syria. In order for any peace agreement, in order for any possibility of a viable peace agreement to occur, there has to be a conversation with him.
Their plan is to have an Islamic state in this country. We will declare the greatness of you toward the humanity. Lord, we don't know what is the coming plans for our country and for our community, but we know that everything will be done for the good that you planned for us.
Gabbard's anti-interventionist stance drew criticism, but also aligned her briefly with Donald Trump's rhetoric, leading to a notable meeting with him after his election. She met with Trump to discuss foreign policy. This meeting sparked speculation that she might join his administration, although that did not materialize. The contrast between her anti-establishment stance and traditional Democratic foreign policy put her in a polarizing position. Supporters saw her as a bold voice against endless wars, while critics suggested her views and actions placed her at odds with American interests.
In a lengthy statement, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard defended her decision to meet with the president-elect at Trump Tower in New York City on Monday. While the rules of political expediency would say I should have refused to meet with President-elect Trump, I never have and never will play politics with American and Syrian lives.
How serious Do you see this revelation that Trump's pick to be the director of the national intelligence was placed on a TSA watch list earlier this year? What do you think?
Now, Gabbard has claimed publicly that she was added to a, quote, secret terror watch list. That's not what this is.
This is a clear act of political retaliation. There's no other way to put it. You laid out the sequence of events the very next day after my conversation with you on the air, warning the American people about how dangerous a Kamala Harris presidency would be. I was placed on this domestic terror watch list, which is called the Quiet Skies list under the Department of Homeland Security.
The things that she's done inside Syria and the things that she said about Bashar al-Assad and Syria are deeply, deeply troubling and should be worrisome. And I know many senators are worried about that.
This is not a place for a Russian, Iranian, Syrian, Chinese sympathizer. DNI has to analyze real threats. Are we comfortable with someone like that?
That anybody that has a different political view now is being cast as a Russian asset. It's totally ridiculous. Tulsi Gabbard has served in our military. She served as a congresswoman from Hawaii, as a Democrat, I might add.
Are we comfortable with someone like that at the top of our national intelligence agencies?
She cares deeply about our Constitution and civil liberties and making sure people aren't being targeted by these intelligence agencies. So again, I think this is a reformer who can come in, who maybe is not part of the same Washington cocktail party circuit that people in the intel community are used to, but maybe that's exactly what we need right now. President Trump listened to the American people when they screamed about these issues. They want to be heard. They feel like Washington's broken, and I think bringing somebody in like Tulsi Gabbard is a welcome news.
This is something that I realized very quickly during my first deployment to Iraq, where I was seeing firsthand the cost of war, serving in that medical unit every single day. I wondered how many politicians in Washington who voted for or advocated for or championed that war in Iraq were laying awake at night thinking about my brothers and sisters who were getting killed in combat, who were getting severely wounded, who were getting blown up by IEDs. And I learned very quickly that they were not.
Hawaii, a breathtaking mosaic of lush mountains, turquoise waters, and a culture steeped in aloha, stands as a beacon of natural beauty and harmony. It's also the birthplace of Tulsi Gabbard, whose values of service and peace are deeply influenced by the island's spirit of unity and resilience. Tulsi Gabbard was born on April 12, 1981, in Leloaloa, American Samoa, to a family with diverse cultural and spiritual influences. When she was 2 years old, her family relocated to Hawaii, where she grew up surrounded by the island's natural beauty and the values of aloha. Her parents instilled in her a deep sense of responsibility, service, and spirituality. Tulsi's father, Mike Gabbard, was a politician and educator, while her mother, Carol, was a teacher and entrepreneur. Tulsi Gabbard's childhood in Hawaii was shaped by a variety of interests and experiences. She was passionate about surfing, martial arts, and yoga, all of which became integral parts of her life. Gabbard was mostly homeschooled but spent 2 years attending a girls' school in the Philippines. During her formative years, she also explored spiritual principles, notably those found in the Bhagavad Gita, which introduced her to the Hindu faith. As a teenager, she fully embraced Hinduism, a belief system that would influence her worldview and political journey. In her early adulthood, Gabbard worked for Stand Up for America, SUFA, an organization founded by her father in response to the September 11th attacks, and was involved in the Alliance for Traditional Marriage and Values, a conservative political group. She also worked as a martial arts instructor and briefly as an educator for the Healthy Hawaii Coalition, which focused on environmental protection. At 21, Gabbard made a significant leap into politics, leaving her studies at Leeward Community College to successfully run for the Hawaii State Legislature. In doing so, she became the youngest woman ever elected to the Hawaii State Legislature. She later graduated from Hawaii Pacific University in 2009 with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, specializing in international business.
I was shy, a total introvert, afraid to talk to strangers, afraid to talk to people. So the idea that I would someday run for office was something that did not exist within my universe growing up.
In 2002, at 21, became the youngest legislator ever elected in Hawaii's history, winning the 42nd district of the Hawaii House of Representatives with 60.7% of the vote. In 2004, she chose to volunteer for Army National Guard service in Iraq rather than seek re-election. Despite having filed for re-election, she announced in August 2004 that she would not campaign for a second term. Rita Cabanilla won the Democratic primary with 58% of the vote, and Gabbard's name remained on the ballot due to state law.
My name is Tulsi Gabbard. I currently serve on the Honolulu City Council and also am a candidate for Congress.
After returning from her second Middle East deployment in 2009, Tulsi Gabbard ran for the Honolulu City Council in 2010, winning the primary with 26.8% of the vote and defeating Sisnita Moepono in the November runoff. During her term, she introduced a measure to support food truck vendors and passed Bill 54, which allowed city workers to confiscate personal belongings from public property with 24 hours notice, despite opposition from the ACLU and Occupy Hawaii. The bill became City Ordinance 1129.
I am also a captain in the Hawaii Army National Guard and have served on 2 deployments with the 29th Brigade Combat Team to the Middle East.
In April 2003, while serving in the Hawaii State Legislature, Tulsi Gabbard enlisted in the Hawaii Army National Guard. She was deployed to Iraq in 2004 for a 12-month tour, serving as a specialist with the 29th Support Battalion, and chose not to run for re-election due to her deployment.
I was serving my constituents in Ewa Beach in Waipahu, going surfing on the weekends, and then all of a sudden found out that this deployment of close to 3,000 Hawaii troops was happening to Iraq. I was not on that first mandatory deployment roster, but knew very quickly that there was no way that I could stay home in the comfort of my house and in Hawaii and watch my brothers and sisters deploy, and recognizing the necessity to stand with them as they went off to combat.
In 2007, Gabbard graduated at the top of her class from the Accelerated Officer Candidate School, becoming the first woman to do so. She was commissioned as a second lieutenant and served as a military police officer in Kuwait from 2008 to 2009, where she became one of the first women to enter a Kuwaiti military facility. Gabbard earned the Combat Medical Badge, Meritorious Service Medal, and the German Armed Forces Badge for military proficiency. She was promoted to Major in 2015 and later transferred to a California-based Army Reserve unit in 2020. In 2021, Gabbard was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel while serving in the Horn of Africa as a civil affairs officer.
The experience completely changed my life and was a very big motivator in recognizing what are the true costs of war, seeing that on a daily basis.
Democrat Tulsi Gabbard cast her ballot at Honolulu Hale this morning. Gabbard stands as one of 2 people in line to represent Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District on the national stage.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today.
During the second round of Democratic primary debates in July 2019 in Detroit, Gabbard launched a critique against Kamala Harris, focusing heavily on Harris's record as a prosecutor.
Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record.
Tulsi Gabbard served in the United States House of Representatives as a Democrat from 2013 to 2021, representing Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District. Elected in 2012, she became the first Hindu and the youngest woman ever elected to Congress at the time. Gabbard focused on issues such as military intervention, veterans affairs, and environmental protection. She was a strong advocate for non-interventionist foreign policy, often criticizing U.S. involvement in overseas conflicts. In 2020, she ran for the Democratic presidential nomination, but did not secure the party's nomination. Gabbard did not seek re-election in 2020 and completed her term in Congress.
There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California.
Tulsi Gabbard, once a prominent Democrat and vice chair of the DNC, became a vocal critic of her own party long before aligning with Republicans.
It's unfortunate that we have someone on the stage who is attempting to be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States, who during the Obama administration spent 4 years full-time on Fox News criticizing President Obama.
Gabbard's dissent against Democratic leadership, particularly after her presidential bid in 2020, led her to leave the party in 2022, becoming an independent and later joining the Republicans in 2024.
Freedom. The Democrat Party has no home for people like us. But we do have a home in the Republican Party where we are welcomed with open arms by President Trump and so many of you who love our country. It is a privilege to be here with all of you, my brothers and sisters in uniform, especially on this day. When we had our first memorial service in Iraq back in 2005, some of my fellow soldiers who are part of the brigade are here and can appreciate that experience. When we had hundreds of soldiers from the Hawai'i Army National Guard's 29th Brigade Combat Team gathered in a memorial service, I felt and saw his sincere appreciation for these servicemen and women who paid the ultimate price and their loved ones who continue to grieve to this day. We paid our respects to the empty boots, the empty helmet, and the rifle, representing one of our friends. We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
Tulsi Gabbard has often framed her efforts as a continued war for the American people, focusing on unity, freedom, and accountability. While her political journey has taken her outside traditional party lines, she remains hopeful for the future under leadership like that of former President Trump, whom she has praised for challenging the status quo and prioritizing American interests. Gabbard's commitment to serving the nation reflects her belief that the fight for justice and integrity in governance is far from over.
Really gave me hope in seeing the results of this election as the American people, the vast majority of the American people, didn't fall for the lies and the propaganda that they were pushing out, and they saw through them. They saw that in Kamala Harris and in the Democrat elite and those who were backing and propping her up in the propaganda media and big tech and so forth.
Do you think Tulsi Gabbard is the best choice for National Intelligence Director under Trump? Or is there someone else better suited?
President Trump is going through, and I know this is how he's spending a lot of his time right now, is looking at making these decisions about who he wants to serve on his team and in his cabinet. If there is any way that I can help achieve that goal and objective of preventing World War III and nuclear war, of course, I'd be honored to serve.
Love her or challenge her, Tulsi Gabbard remains a steadfast and unconventional force in American politics, unafraid to follow her convictions wherever they lead. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more.
Let's think about how we can be of service in our own lives and make that positive impact on others. And understand that despite all of our external differences, whether those differences be our politics or race or religion or all of the things that are so easily used to divide us in today's place and time, to remember that we're all God's children. We can find true happiness and true purpose in our lives by living our life in that spirit of selfless service.